Y'all, this is Lou Temple, and you're listening to Don't Go Out There podcast, right where you want to be. You follow me?
They've conquered the big screen. Now, get ready for the spin-off sure to send chills down your spine. It's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin in Don't Go Out There, the series.
Welcome back, everybody, to DGOT, the series. We really appreciate y'all listening. We hope y'all have been enjoying these series reviews. I know we have. It's been a lot of fun. Just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network. So there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. We're continuing on with the Walking Dead Season 2. I'll just go ahead and say it now. Episode 7, best episode of the season to me. Like, this has everything you could want in an episode. I love it. I think episode 8, Nebraska, is really good as well. I'm going to touch on some things, personally, just from my own point of view, like writing wise, like I would like to see it done differently, which doesn't mean I don't think season 2 is great. I've already said I loved it, but there are some things, because I'm watching season 3 now, and I got to be honest, I'm fighting for my life. I think it's kind of slow. Things aren't moving that great. And I don't know if I'm going to keep trekking on because, I don't know. It's just things aren't popping off, but I'm going to keep fighting. But season 2, I think, is great. This is the first episode that I truly think is a 10 out of 10, and I'll keep on touching on that. But episode 7, I love it. Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, first of all, I don't like your slander towards season 3. I love season 3. I appreciate the slow burn aspect to it because you get some sense of normalcy. But we're not talking about season 3, so let's go back here. 2 phenomenal episodes. The best, if not one of the best, for sure, couplings of episodes we've seen. Episode 7 is near perfect. Episode 8 is really good as well. So not a lot of issues, maybe some minor nitpicks throughout, but really good stuff here.
Yeah, and to me, I kind of feel like these 2 episodes are one. And that's hard to say because there's so much shit that goes on in 7, but then 8 is dealing with pretty much those ramifications the entire time. But of all I've watched, which is a lot of Walking Dead, episode 7, and I think one other maybe, is the only one to bring tears to my eyes. And I'm pretty sure that I texted Dustin every time one did get me like this. But I'm not afraid to admit, episode 7 did get me. I loved them both, though.
Man, I fucking love both of these episodes. And I think something you kind of touched on already is 8 being the fallout from 7 makes it a really good episode. It's like reading one good book and all right, I got to follow that up. Or, in film too as well. I need to see the sequel to that episode. And 8 really feels like a sequel to episode 7, in my opinion. And it kind of ties up some of the loose ends there. But I think 7 is phenomenal. There's so much good here. Great character work. And again, Herschel is the character to me with maybe the most depth so far in these 2 episodes. I feel about him one way at the start of episode 7. By the end of episode 8, I feel a completely different way about him. And so that change definitely happens over the course of, what's the total runtime? 80 minutes, maybe. And so again, this has so much good stuff, a lot of Rick character development as well. We get a lot from Glenn, again, I have some mixed feelings on the big Walker brouhaha showdown that we'll definitely get to. But again, all it does is reinforce my hate for Shane as well. Fuck him. Maggie, I love you.
Maggie Hart, you can have her. That's fine.
Exactly.
No, not Maggie Hart.
All right. Was anybody got anything else before we jump into scene by scene?
Let's do it.
All right. Episode 7, pretty much dead already. We open up with everybody just sitting around, minding their own business, when Glenn looks over and gets a "don't you fucking dare" look from Maggie, and then looks over to Dale and gets a "you fucking better" nod. And, like an idiot, he chooses Dale, stands up, tells the group that Herschel's barn is full of walkers. Well, here we go. Everybody immediately goes to investigate, and as Shane takes a gander through the hole in the door, they discuss the situation, with Shane insisting that they leave for Fort Benning. Carol brings up Sophia, and all hell breaks loose, with Daryl insisting he's close to finding her, and the two almost getting in a bit of a scuffle, including Lori trying to break the two up, and Shane sticking his finger in her face, telling her to get her hands off of him. And I probably would have lost my shit if I was right there. But then again, he just found out that he cream pied his wife, so maybe he's, have been leaving her for the streets at this point. I don't really know what Rick's thinking. Rick agrees to talk to Herschel, and we head into that beautiful Walking Dead intro. Mike?
Don't skip the intro, although, Brian, I'm not going to lie. I skipped the intro during Walking Dead. Sorry. I'm sorry.
God damn it. Who are you?
That's a better theme song.
No, but it doesn't have it doesn't have that same energy as a Stranger Things one does.
Whoa,
Sorry.
Whoa. Hot take. We cut to Shane standing guard at the barn, testing the locks. Glenn goes to speak with Maggie, but she gives him the metaphorical finger by cracking an egg on his head. Over at the RV, Dale loans Glenn his hat while we see Andrea arming herself to go search for Sophia with Rick. Dale tries to warn Andrea about Shane, but she doesn't agree with him. She's still probably leaking his baby batter as well, and after Andrea leaves, Dale gathers up all the guns as he's back to being a bitch this episode. As Herschel reads the Bible over lunch, Rick goes to him to discuss remaining at the farm again and to tell him that they know about the walkers in the barn. Rick just wants to talk, but Herschel demands that they leave before the end of the week, and Rick confronts him about the reality that they will face out in the real world. He tells Herschel, who only saw the apocalypse via the news, and asks about Hannah and asks Herschel to let them stay because his farm is their only safe haven. In a final attempt, he tells Herschel that the farm is special and that he needs to stay there because his wife is pregnant. As Rick leaves, Maggie gives Herschel the look of disappointment, hearing everything, and that's the end of the set of scenes.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow that up, Brian. All the Lori slander, which I appreciated, honestly. But starting off, this episode is absolute peak. This is by far the best episode of The Walking Dead we've covered, and it's the best of all of Season 2, in my opinion, even the episodes that are to come. I love how it starts off with everyone eating, kind of a mundane morning, Rick drifting off into his own mind, and then awkward eye contact with Glenn and Maggie. Glenn, I know the butterflies in his stomach were going in circles, telling the group of the secret in the barn. And I honestly have no idea how they haven't heard the walkers in the barn, considering how freaking loud those things are and how quiet the country can be. The tension between Rick and Shane is coming to a boil, and honestly, if I was a member of this group, I'm paying very close attention to how Rick handles this situation. I saw a comment on YouTube that sent me. I was dying laughing. When Carol says, because my daughter is still out there, the comment said, before that deep sigh by Shane, you know he was about to let out the biggest man, fuck your daughter ever. I laughed my ass off at that. I'm sure this is controversial considering Shane's character and the things he's done in the past, but I agree with him 100% in this argument against Rick. The action and anger amongst the men is so realistic, and I think Bernthal carries it. I saw a TikTok talking about Daryl's little hop skip when angry and his arm flail, and I cry laughing seeing it every time. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Shane checking the locks and the security of the door. I think he has a legit reason to be worried right now. If all the walkers pushed on that door or one of those weak walls, I absolutely think they could make their way out. Maggie crushes an egg on Glid's head. That's a huge financial loss in today's economy. If I'm Carl, you're out of your goddamn mind if you think I'm doing some homeschooling right now. The fuck I need to know, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally in a time like this. It's truly admirable that Daryl seems to have more hope of finding Sophia than her own mother. It's an interesting dynamic between Carol and Daryl. Daryl is funny as hell, though. Leave me be, stupid bitch. I'm really grown to like Daryl a lot more.
Yeah.
Dale prying into Andrea's business again. Honestly, with what you know now, why wouldn't you want someone on watch at the barn? Dale straight up lies to her saying he doesn't like Shane. I legit don't believe that at all. Dale asks Andrea about being watched and asking Rick, but has no problem taking the guns and hiding them without asking Rick. A little bit of a hypocrite, if you ask me. I think the interaction between Herschel and Rick is very finely acted by both men. You can tell the two men respect each other, but Herschel drops the tough news he wants Rick and company out at the end of the week. You know, if you're Rick, with everything you know about Lori as well, you're scared as hell. A lot of desperation and sincerity from both men, and I can see both point of views. Like Dustin mentioned, I listened to our first few episodes, like he mentioned, you can see both point of views between Rick and Herschel. I love the quick shot of Maggie and Herschel making eye contact, both questioning each other's thoughts. I thought it was a great opening to a great episode. Go ahead, Mike.
It's been a long time since the first go around when I watched the first few seasons of The Walking Dead. I forgot that Glenn he's the one that drops his fucking bombshell, man. This motherfucker can't keep a secret to save his life. It gives him worse anxiety than it gives my wife. And that's saying something because she can't hold or tell a little white lie for anything. I do like how it's all communicated through head nods and silent communication. So again, I like the way it's done and I like how effective it is, but his immediate sensibility to sell people out really fucking bugs me. Okay. Anyway, I don't disagree with you, Nico, about Shane. And I'm not necessarily saying he's wrong, but it really feels like he's too much of a hothead, and that's why he's not in charge. Like, it's okay to feel that way, about being in danger and with the walkers in the barn. Like, I completely understand that. But he's overreacting, and he's escalating things. And, again, it's why he's not in charge. And right now, Rick is. But like you mentioned, always want to make sure that we're watching Rick because for some reason he became a leader, like I mentioned last week. Don't quite understand how we got that vote. I loved Maggie squashing the egg on Glenn's head like this because, again, fucker can't keep his mouth shut, man. He deserved to have that egg smashed on his head, in my opinion. I will say, who the fuck is homeschooling in a situation like this? Like, I commend Lori a little bit for trying, but nah, man, like, there's so much other shit that you need to worry about. And Carl's a good kid, right? I mean, again, he's growing up in this world. It's a tough go. And, there's more on Carl, or I have more thoughts on Carl later, but this scene it's heartbreaking with the context of what we know is coming on the way. I actually really like Daryl and Carol. That's a fun duo name. I like Daryl and Carol's friendship. It's not often that a show like this wouldn't try to turn them into some weird, awkward romance. And, here in these scenes, they're just effective on-screen buddies, that kind of want to be there for each other in this group. They've kind of paired off in this way, and I kind of like it. By the way, take the fucking hint, Dale. Good Lord. He may be dropping below Shane in my least favorite character categories, man. He is just this moral police that I can't fucking stand. He tries to make the best, or he tries to make everyone's decisions for them and tries to, sit up on his high horse. And it really fucking bugs me the way he does that. Andrea doesn't need your protection, brother. And if she wanted it, she would have fucking asked. You've already kind of screwed her up one time. But I got to say, the set of balls, I didn't think Rick had it in him. The set of balls Rick had to go up to Herschel and bring this up, this topic of conversation about the barn. I, again, was not expecting it out of Rick. Wasn't familiar with this game. Definitely wasn't familiar with this game in episode 8, which we'll get to. But it's his barn. I mean, it's Herschel's barn, and he's basically asking them if we could kill everyone that he's ever loved. That's tough. That's a tough ask to walk up to a man and ask for. And obviously, I'm on Rick's side, right? I mean, I think I understand where Herschel's coming from with, family members and stuff, but these aren't real people anymore. They're not. They're animals, for lack of a better term. I probably shouldn't use that, but that's all I had. I do think Rick is great in this scene, though. And, and I think the acting back and forth is great. Herschel, very stubborn, but I think great. Rick does a great job pleading his case, and you can tell he kind of gets through to Herschel as far as them staying there. And a really tough emotional scene to end it. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, if I'm Rick, I don't know if I'm there yet for you to be rubbing your fingers through my head while you eat eggs. Give me some space, lady. Like, I need to heal, process. And then, I usually don't question Glenn's judgment. He's usually solid. But that's not how he should have told about the barn. He should have talked to Rick and only Rick in private, because we know how certain people react. A lot of tension when they get to the barn. Tempers are flaring. And let me tell you something. Shane's a loose cannon. Good stuff here in the open. Pretty gnarly sound effects, or pretty gnarly effects on the walkers in the barn too. Makeup looked great. And then, yeah, Nico, you touched on it. Pretty irresponsible of Maggie to smash an egg on Glenn's head. You got a ration, woman, not just the financial implications in the real world today, but here, you know that you're feeding your chickens to the people to the sick people in the barn, as Herschel thinks, but you're going to run out of eggs. Come on.
Right. And don't forget they dropped a damn ham down the well. Nico remembers that real good, but they dropped a fucking ham down the well too. Everybody's waste shit like crazy.
Yeah. If I'm Carl here, I've got some strong words for Mom. Finish those problems. So I'm assuming that's math that he's doing. I don't care how many eggs Billy has. I don't care. No shot I'll be doing math homework when the world is overrun by zombies. Get real. Really good stuff from Rick and Herschel. I completely, like I said before, and like Nico said, I completely understand both points of view, and it's really good acting from both guys. Really solid open.
Hey, really quick, Brian. Could you imagine living in a zombie apocalypse and you've been shot, by the way? Don't forget, Carl was shot, recovered. And you come to me with a motherfucking word problem, I swear to God, I'll slap you outside your head. I don't care who you are. That's all I'm saying. And again, you know, I commend Lloyd for trying to keep it normal, but we could do something else. Like we could do a history lesson or something. Fucking word problem. Get the fuck out of my face, Lori.
I mean, who knows? Maybe the Pythagorean theorem would have saved Otis. Who knows? I don't know. I know one thing. Lori was teaching Shane some math. Is that cream Pythagorean theorem? You know what I'm saying?
I was about to say that. I was just about to say the cream Pythagorean.
Yeah, it came to me as soon as I said it. Let's move on.
Me too. Oh, shit. All right. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Outside of the barn, we see Rick join Shane. Shane knows immediately that the talk didn't go well. Rick actually ends up telling Shane that Lori is pregnant to end the argument, and a very affected Shane tells Rick congratulations with his words, but something seems to change inside of him as he says it. Back in the kitchen, Herschel tries to justify his decision to Maggie, and she reminds him of John 13:34, a verse he often quoted to her when he decided to marry her mother. Herschel asks if her feelings for Glenn are an issue, leading her to tell him about the pharmacy and how her eyes have been opened to shit not being the way that he thinks they are. I'm paraphrasing. She didn't say shit, I don't think. Jimmy interrupts them to tell him that they found 2 trapped walkers, and Herschel decides to ask Rick, who is planning the search kit for Sophia, to come with them. Back at camp, Shane confronts Lori, telling her that he wished Rick was dead and that Rick's not built for this world and will be dead sooner or later anyway. He tells her he knows that baby is his, and she vehemently disagrees and says even if it is, it isn't. And nothing he can do can change that. A pissed off Shane goes to the RV to gather their guns, only to find them all missing and Dale gone. Fucking Dale. Glenn doesn't know where he went, and Shane takes off after him. In the swamps, Herschel, Jimmy, and Rick approach the trapped walkers, and Herschel asks him how many walkers he's killed, and could he stop. As they free the trapped walkers, Herschel mentions Otis was the one that always corralled the walkers and put them in the barn. Herschel asked Rick if they'd be able to stop killing walkers, and Herschel explains his philosophy regarding the walkers. He tells them flat out that if they want to stay, they will have to give up killing walkers and leave the barn alone.
All right, so I'm kind of nervous to read these notes because I know that Dustin and Brian aren't the biggest fans of Shane, and I got some hot takes I'm about to drop. But I got my notes up so I can't see, so I might just have to go back and watch the video. But Rick, he drops a bombshell on Shane that Lori is pregnant, and here's a hot take of mine. Shane has caught a lot of hell for what he did to Otis, but he did it to save Carl's life. Every decision Rick has made has put the group's life at risk for his own selfish endeavors. He wanted to find Sophia because he felt like he failed her. He wants to bend the knee to Herschel and sleep a field away from walkers because his wife is pregnant. Like I know that someone mentioned in the previous episode that Carol kind of mentioned Lori as like their first lady. I don't know. I kind of want to know that. Maybe he's shown favoritism to his own wife at the sacrifice of my own safety. I don't know. Great acting by Bernthal processing the pregnancy news, and you can tell he believes it's his kid. And he has every reason to think it. And, you know, I saw a YouTube short where Shane Rick admits it to Michonne. So sorry, Dustin, I saw a little sneak peek of that. But I love this interaction between Maggie and Herschel. It feels like an authentic father-daughter moment, and I love Herschel's reaction to the news his girl was almost killed by a walker. It always hurts a Christian. I claim to be Christian as well. When the word is used against their own actions, Scott Wilson as Herschel has been a great addition to the show. I agree with everyone. I love Herschel. He feels like an old timer from back home, like in my small town. He's very relatable to me. This is where Shane loses me. He keeps prying at Lori. You made a huge mistake, brother, and it's time to walk away. But like Brian mentioned in earlier episodes, Lori begged him to stay, was giving him hope, and was bad on her as well. Like, I'm kind of disappointed that Dustin hasn't called out Lori Grimes as much as he did Maggie Hart, because she's way worse than me.
That's not the same at all. No way.
Oh, give me a fucking break. Lori needs to speak with Carl about I think Lori needs to speak with Carl about the relationship he has with Shane too. That's not his dad. She created this weird relationship. I think she should intervene a little bit. Shane is absolutely stewing, entering the RV, straight up ignoring my Asian brother Glenn. That hurt me. Glenn must be confused as hell with this whole interaction though. Mind blowing to me that Rick is okay with bringing back walkers to where he and the group live. How many walkers was Herschel willing to keep in that rundown barn? I'm just curious about that. I appreciate this interaction between Daryl and Carol. You can tell he has a good heart underneath this rough surface. And this is the last thing I got, Mike. Herschel's line of, it's easier than some things. You can tell that Herschel has a good heart as well. He cares about people, but he isn't in touch with the reality of these walkers because he's secluded out on his own. Go ahead, Mike. Oh, they about to unleash on me.
No, I was just going to say that, okay, I do agree with you to some extent about Shane, and I said it last week. I think Lori's to blame for that because Shane was going to fucking leave. But I don't agree with you about the Rick and Shane being the leaders of the group, because I feel like that Shane is, hey, fuck everybody else. Whatever's me and mine, which in his eyes is Carl and Lori still. Fuck everybody else. Where Rick is maybe putting some people in jeopardy, maybe not. I think he's got the entire group in mind, which is why Shane hates it so much, is because he's willing to sacrifice a lot of things for the greater good of the group instead of just his family. I disagree with that.
I asked that question in the next episode, so we'll love to hear y'all's rebuttal about that. It's with him and Carol, so I'm excited to hear about that.
I agree with you, Brian. But also I wanted to say, it's no way that you think that Lori is worse than Maggie Hart. Let me tell you something.
Way worse. Give me a break. Are you kidding me?
Come on, she is.
Let me tell you something. Let me ask you something.
Marty was alive.
Walk away and rub my head.
Marty was alive, and Maggie didn't even know Rust. That was done out of spite. Lori thought that Rick was dead, and she'd known Shane for years.
Didn't take her long.
So there's already that familiarity. She thinks her husband's dead. She's just trying to find peace in this world. I'm not condoning what she did. They're both wrong.
But she's still telling him, hey, I don't want you to leave. Like Shane is thinking, like,
she's
man,
known
maybe
about
I still
this.
got a chance.
She's known, no. She's known Shane for years. She told him, she set the standard, like, I want you around because I care about you as a person. I've known you for years, but we're not going to be together. My husband's back. I love him. So,
well, yeah, no. But after he rescued Carl, I mean, she was like, I think, looking at him back the same way she used to.
I think she was just like,
she wanted her cake and eat it too. I think.
No, Shane was putting her face in the dirt real good.
I think she was looking at it like, you saved my son. I'm so grateful. I don't want you to go off by yourself, get killed, stay with the group. I don't think it was like that at all. I don't condone what she did in the woods, but Maggie Hart is one of the worst women to ever live.
What?
Both are abhorrent.
Stacey Anthony is a better. Okay, never mind.
No, and her name is Casey.
Casey.
Stacey's her sister.
Stacey may be good. Who knows?
Okay.
Wow.
Really good stuff again with Rick and Shane here. It's even really more awkward for us as viewers now, though, because we know everything, and especially when when Rick mentions the baby. And honestly, not a whole lot more needs to be said. That tension is built without a whole lot of words. You can, like Brian mentioned, you could see it in Shane's face. Like, congratulations. Yeah, buddy. Congratulations, my ass. That's like congratulating a Gator fan when they beat us. Hey, buddy, congrats. Yeah, go fuck yourself is what I really meant to say. So, or like when a Dallas fan congratulates the Super Bowl winning Eagles this year. Anyway.
Yeah, because I ain't congratulating you.
Well, I don't want you to, buddy. You're not supposed to, even though I did congratulate the Nats when they finally did something. So there you go. Learning a little bit more about Maggie and Herschel's backstory here, I really liked. Kind of digging in deeper to who they are, learning about, what happened to his wife, Maggie's mom there. And Maggie's great here, honestly. This is one of her better performances in the show so far. She's really trying to open his eyes to the world around him. And again, obviously, I think, Maggie's mad about the secret getting out, but she also had her life saved by Glenn, knowing what these walkers are capable of. So I really like that scene there. Shane really is being a dick, though. Like, I understand what you're saying, Nico, but he's basically calling Rick a giant pussy right in front of his wife. That's what the motherfucker did right there. There was some cold words coming from Shane right there. But, hey, you could say that. But you could also say that Rick is a little more mature, a little more measured than Shane. He's not such a fucking hothead that has to, fly off the handle at every second, get mad about something. I'm just saying, there's a reason they don't put. Never mind. I'm not going to go that far. And again, we get more with Lori and Shane here. She's trying to stand up for Herschel. But here's what I'm going to slightly agree with you, Nico. I'm going to come back to the center for you a little bit. Part of me does feel bad for Shane in the general sense, because the life that Rick has is definitely the life that he's always wanted. He can act like a womanizer. He can act like somebody that wants to fuck around and whatever. You could tell he definitely wants the wife, the kid, the perfect life that he never had. Go back to the last episode where he's talking about, fucking this teacher and fucking this person, and he fucks Andrea. And I could tell he wants Rick's life no matter what he says. And hey, Lori, let's not let Carl hang out with Shane for too long. Like you guys have all mentioned, she's an enabler here. We could put a stop to this stuff. And this is how bad ideas spread, by the way. If Shane gets in Carl's head, it's a downward spiral there. I just can't bring myself to agree with Herschel's thoughts and perspective here. I don't care that they're the people I love. Those people are gone. They want to eat you. And I do like that we're about to get the reality for Herschel here. They literally want to fucking kill you and eat you. I just feel like as a doctor, he should be more realistic about this. But anyway, last thing. Could not be Rick in this scene. I am not capturing and saving fucking walkers. I'm killing them on sight, man. And, this is where, hey, if I had to attack Herschel, as much as I love Herschel, he reminds you of everybody's grandpa. I completely understand that. But I'm going to have to put old man in his place here. I'm killing these fucking walkers. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, the look on Shane's face when Rick told him Lori's pregnant, that was great. And so was the nervous and awkward way he congratulated Rick. If I was Rick, I would have had to have some words with him, though. Let him know, that I know everything and to be on his best behavior. I know it wasn't meant to be funny, but when Herschel said there's plenty of farms for Rick's group to choose from, that made me laugh. That was a great line. Really good stuff with him and Maggie here. Great dialogue and great acting, particularly from Maggie, Lauren Cohen. Shane has some nerve with the things he said to Lori here. She should have told him to kick rocks and told Rick immediately what he said. And when he starts talking about the paternity, I think the group should have packed up right then and headed up to New York to see if they could find Maury. Maybe he's not a zombie yet. Carl talking bold to Shane, that was funny, but man, it flipped his switch. We're in for some drama, to say the least. Pretty big development with Herschel and Rick. He's compromising, and it looks like we have a path to coexisting forever. Nice callback to the previous episode with Daryl and Carol in the Cherokee Rose. I'm ready for the ending here.
Dude, the thing is like Lori does this shit where she talks to like Shane one-on-one and like apologize for how he feels, and I can't imagine how she does that shit again in like a couple episodes. Like Lori, like let's just say I really like season 3, episode 4 for reasons. I'm just going to leave it at that.
It's because just like most women, she's convinced herself she's a good person.
Jesus. All right, let's get to this emotional ending here, okay? While on watch, Glenn spots Maggie walking alone and joins her. She ignores him, but he emphatically states that he had to tell the group. For a while, he forgot the walkers are dangerous and secrets have a way of getting people killed. Glenn would rather Maggie be angry with him if it meant that she was still alive. Maggie gives in to that Asian persuasion, and they reconcile with a kiss. We cut to the swamp where Dale is hiding the guns, and I completely am on Shane's side with this. Again, Dale's in bench. When Shane confronts him, Dale asks if he's going to shoot him like he did Otis, and Shane straight up tells him like it is, that when he looks at it in the cold light of day, in the immortal words of Scotty from Star Trek II, he's dead already. The confrontation escalates, and Shane tells Dale that the only way that he will stop him is if he shoots him. Dale points the gun at him, but Shane calls his bluff, and Dale pussies out. He tells him that this is the world they're currently in, and it's where Shane belongs, saying, at least he can say when the world went to shit, it didn't take him down with it. Okay. Back at the farm, Shane is back with the guns and starts handing them out. Lori and Maggie try to talk him out of it when they see Rick and Herschel and Jimmy back with more walkers. Shane escalates the situation, but in this case, and in my opinion, isn't wrong, and ends up shooting one of the walkers in the head, trying to prove that they are no longer people. He then begins a tirade about how the group needs to start fighting, and how enough is enough. He runs to open the barn, and Rick is unable to stop him because Herschel is in shock and won't take the fucking snare pole, by the way. Now, why someone else like Jimmy wouldn't, I don't know. But Rick isn't able to stop him, and Shane breaks the lock to free the walkers one at a time. Shane, Andrea, T-Dog, and Daryl kill the walkers as they file out, as the Green family watches in horror. Glenn only joins in with Maggie's consent, and Rick, finally free of the walker, doesn't try to stop anybody either. Just as Dale arrives, a final walker's timid frame steps out of the barn and into the sunlight. The entire group and us viewers are horrified to see it's Sophia. Still wearing her shoes and blue rainbow t-shirt, Carol screams but is held back by Daryl. None of them can bring themselves to raise their weapon, even Shane. But it's Rick who ultimately steps forward, drawing his gun. He shoots her once in the head, having had the resolve to do what had to be done. But still, second viewing for me brought tears to my eyes. Goddamn, what an episode. And truthfully, though, just to kind of continue, we had to have this be what happened to Sophia. Because, I mean, had it just been the Green family zombies that were killed, they would never have forgiven anything. But with them seeing that the group had to kill an ex-member of their own family, basically, in a weird way, shit was even, you know? I guess if that makes sense. Go ahead.
No, I saw a funny comment on YouTube about that as well. It said, if Shane hadn't done this, we'd be season 10 of Still Looking For. So good on Shane for that. I love this interaction between Glenn and Maggie. Asian brother drops a big sentimental truth bomb on her, and she receives it well. Walker bait. This season has been focused a lot on secrets, and Glenn is sick of it. I got to praise Lauren Cohen. You know, like Dustin mentioned, she's British. I think she does a great Southern Belle accent. Like, she nails that. I'm not sure why, but every interaction with Shane and Dale is funny as hell to me. Shane gets called out for killing Otis a lot, but if he didn't, Shane is dead. Otis is dead. Carl is most likely dead. It's a cruel world, but had to be done. I'm sure I would want my son to be saved if that's what it took. I can appreciate Dale trying to see the bright side, but come on, man, this is a whole new world. Shane walks up to the farm like stone cold when the glass shatters. Bernthal is about to take over the next 8.5 minutes of this episode. And I'm sure everyone notices this, but big goof here. But T-Dog teleports to a whole different spot from where he was standing a second ago when he says, oh, shit. Like, he's right beside Shane, and then when he says, oh, shit, he's like, 20 feet away? Honestly, if you're a group member who isn't Lori, how can you not question Rick's judgment bringing walkers back to where they're staying? I saw a comment on YouTube that I thought was smart. He doesn't just go maniacal. He proves the point to Herschel they're not people. Why is it still coming? And again, Herschel, with more great acting, realizing he's been wrong all along. You know, Herschel, I think we're all fans. He's a man of faith, but he's also a man of science because he's a vet. So seeing these walkers take all these shots to the eye, like to the heart, the lungs, that's eye-opening to them. They're not people. This is a very powerful, emotional scene for this entire crew and cast. Very smart of Shane to only remove the one lock and board so the walkers exited in a single file line and they didn't get overwhelmed too fast. You know, I do think this is a 10 out of 10 episode, but I do have a couple of qualms. Like, this scene, give me a break. All these shots to the chest, shoulders, like, stop wasting your fucking ammo. Hit him in the head. What's wrong with you? Glenn stays respectful to Maggie, like Brian mentioned, asking permission first before shooting, you know, their family, as they called them. And to quote law-abiding citizen for Herschel, lessons not learned in blood are soon forgotten. Sophia exiting the barn was a huge oh shit moment for me. I'm right there with you, Brian. Very emotional. Carol's broken reaction. Daryl's heart must have sunk. Rick knowing he's put his people at risk to save a little girl who he knew was most likely dead. It was fitting that Rick shoots her dead, but I hate that the writing in the next few episodes makes Rick merciful again. Like, he should have learned his lesson. I highly recommend to our audience to watch the 5-ish minute long video on YouTube on the making of this scene. It was very intense. A lot of effort was put into it. Like, they took this scene very seriously. Extremely emotional as Rick walks to her, revolver drawn with that music playing. Like, it puts you in like I might shed a tear here in a second. As of the end of this episode, this is a 10 out of 10 season for me. This episode is a 10 out of 10. You get action, drama, heart, emotion, everything you could ask for in an episode of television. But I'm going to do one more special thing going forward, kind of like how Dustin does the David Arquette thing. For the Shane head scratch count, he had 5. And Shane, some sort of tell you something, he had 2 of them. Go ahead.
Real quick before you go, Mike. That's funny. Before you go, Mike, I want to say, Nico, you touched on something I didn't have in my notes, but it's a good point. With him not only wasting ammunition by shooting the walkers in the chest and everything, but their skin is not as rigid as, living people's flesh. Those bullets would have went right through. He put everyone around him in danger. Like, anyone that's standing beside him could have called a hollow. But also, I don't know why, but when you said that Herschel was a man of science, I thought of Nacho Libre, Escalito, when he said, I believe in science. Like, I don't know why, but that came into my head. Go ahead.
Look, I appreciate Maggie here because sometimes in life you got to be able to keep a secret. And I get Glenn's big gripe, man, but he sounds like Charlie in the Santa Claus 2 about, my life's become about secrets and I hate it. Like, or just be a fucking man, be able to keep someone's secret, you fucking asshole. Jesus Christ, man. And again, his little rant about how it's fine and all, but we just got to disagree. And good for Maggie to kind of, give in there, man. But I don't know. Glenn, good for you. You spit your game. You won. So I'm with you on that, Maggie. Please call me sometime. I just don't understand where Dale's moral high ground is coming from. Because while the majority of us may not like Shane, he's more often than not right when he's talking with Dale. So I just don't understand where his fucking moral police is coming from. He's an annoying little bitch, like you said. Like, he's so, the way he kind of pokes and prods at Shane, I don't blame him for losing his cool with him occasionally. And again, now we're, Shane kind of trying to get Carl involved in these shenanigans behind Rick's back, for lack of a better term. Okay, we're right back to not liking Shane here. Anyway, the most important part of this episode, I fucking love this confrontation with everyone involved. It feels like the big culmination scene of the season so far. You know how in the first one you kind of get the CDC where everyone kind of logs onto it or walks into it, and that's kind of a big culmination scene. That feels like this season's version of the CDC, where you just really get an explosion of a lot of stuff happening here. Humans versus walkers, that kind of battle. And even though I don't agree with Herschel and his point, this is devastating in real time to watch him go through this. And that realization that he has to feel that, holy shit, I've been wrong this whole time because these are not people. And to realize the people that you loved and tried to protect were not real people anymore. They wanted to eat you. They wanted to kill you as soon as they saw you is heartbreaking and devastating in and of itself. However, this reveal of Sophia is even more devastating. Man, like, it is a gut-wrenching call there. I even let out an oh shit this time because I forgot. Like, that's what the wrap-up of Sophia's character was. And man, my heart breaks for Carol because I like Carol as a character. And again, all she really wanted to do was what any parent would do, which was find her kid. And you hate that this is the worst case scenario, but I actually got to hand it to Rick. Didn't think he had that in him. He did what had to be done. And I understand some of the writing stuff that you mentioned, Nico. Now, I'm only through episode 9 and 10 of the season. And so that's really all I'm familiar with. But in the next episode, I don't think he's merciful at the end. I think he's pretty he's pretty matter of fact. He does what needs to be done in that bar saloon. So anyway, but again, I thought it was a great fucking closing scene there. Shout out to Rick for doing what had to be done. And again, sometimes you have to do what has to be done, but you don't always have to be such an emotional hothead about it, man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, when Glenn is talking to Maggie and he says it's a video game, and she says, "Of course it's a video game," I laughed. Like, she called him a nerd to his face when he was giving such an impassioned speech. That was great. That one line, that was so good. Very tense when Shane catches up to Dale, and when Shane gets back to the farm, man's lost it. Let me tell you something. It's about to go down. One thing I just don't get, though, is why they didn't just send Shane and whoever wants to go on their way. They don't have to stay together. Shane and Andrea should have been sent on their way a while ago. But he opens the barn door, and here we go. I get the heartbreak that Herschel and his family had to have felt, and I get having to kill them now that they're out. But how did anyone not realize all that gunfire was the dinner bell for all the walkers in the surrounding area? That's just not smart. Before we go, though, on this episode, great reveal of Sophia. She's the last one out. Great dramatics. It was slow. Great score. And man, it was tough to see. The closing shot of everyone was great too. Daryl consoling Carol, Lori with Carl, Jimmy with Beth, and Maggie with Herschel. I mean, what a shot. Just a really great ending. Really great episode. I gave it a 9.5. Almost perfect.
Yeah, I think it's another example of Rick doing the end of this, doing what nobody else could do for the benefit of the group leadership.
I wanted to say something real quick, Dustin, what you said about Andrea and Shane leaving. No, I agree with that, and I wish that they did that, like for this series, because there's another show that I really love called Spartacus, and in the final season, are you going to watch it? I mean, it's been out for a decade now.
I am going to watch it. I'm about to start it. Go ahead.
You fucking with me right now?
No, I swear. Go ahead.
All right, I'm not saying nothing. Never mind.
No, say it. Brian, mute.
All right, close your ears, Brian. I'll say it real quick. All right, so in the last season of that, Crixus is kind of like Shane, and Spartacus is kind of like Rick, the leader. But like, eventually it gets to a point where it's like we're both escaped slaves, and this group of people is tired of not fighting the Romans because they escaped, their master's house because they wanted to fight the Romans. So Spartacus says, Crixus, if that's what you and your people want to do, I'm letting you leave now if that's your choice, because we're free people now. And then, there was another guy called Gannicus. He was like he was the other badass gladiator of the house. He was kind of like Daryl, Rick's sidekick. I wish they would have went that route, because then, maybe you have Shane and Andrea leave. They go through some stuff, get a following. Maybe they come back to fight the governor. They has like a big character arc. Maybe he saves Rick. He dies for Rick. Like, there could have been a nice character arc for that. I'm just not a huge fan of the ending of this, because there's just some things I just don't care. I still love the season, but I wish they would have went a different route.
I agree with that.
Well, Shane, if they would have sent them on their own, merry ways, we wouldn't have got a spin-off series from it, because Shane's such a hothead and Andrea's such a R-word that they would have got killed. They would have got killed very quickly.
An R-word, you can say it, buddy. It's 2025.
But still, that's fine with me though. I mean, I would rather him die fighting instead of what happens with. I don't know. I just don't really buy him what he wants to do at the end. And then I really don't like the reveal at the end of the season either.
My biggest gripe with them is that not once did someone say leave. Like, no one even brings it up. You can leave. Yeah. And he's like, Rick, we got to get out of here. Rick, we got to kill the walkers. Rick should have said, Shane, if you don't want to do what we as a group have collectively decided to do, you can leave. Like, it's not even suggested.
You're right.
No, you're right. Well, Dale says you can leave, but he hates fucking Dale's ass. So.
Yeah.
And it's our ex. Excuse me, man. Where's the door? That's what Hank Jr. said, by God.
I got a few trivia. Do you guys have any trivia?
I
do not.
All right. I mentioned the comics once before with how the show veered off with it being Herschel's sons and not daughters. But another difference is that Sophia actually outlives Carol in the comics as well. Sophia is the first child zombie since the little girl with the teddy bear in the season premiere. And the last thing, the shooting of all the walkers in Herschel's barn was affectionately known to the cast and crew as Barnageddon. I don't know. Dad joke. I like it.
I do commend the show for having child walkers, though. Like, that's that's a bold choice to make. So
it's realistic too, though. Of course, there's going to be child zombies.
That would happen. It has to.
Absolutely. So I commend, but not only just having child walkers, but that shot of Sophia shooting her in the head like that and showing it as intimately as they did, huge props.
Like, she had a "I'm fucking want to kill you" look on her face. Like, no, Sophia was gone. The zombie was there. I like the way it was portrayed. It was, oh God, tough.
All right, let's go ahead and get into that next episode. Episode 8, Nebraska. We pick up immediately where we left off in episode 7, with Rick lowering the gun after shooting Sophia. Beth runs over to the body of her mother after Carol takes off crying as well. But she is still alive and tries to grab Beth. After stomping, Andrea puts a scythe through zombie Annette's head. As the Green family walk back to the house, Shane accuses them of knowing Sophia's whereabouts all along, not helping anything, Shane. But Herschel denies knowing, speculating that Otis had put her there before he died. Shane, of course, escalates the situation more until Maggie slaps Shane. Pissed off, Herschel orders Rick's group to leave the farm. Rick and Shane get into it again as Rick ridicules Shane for his actions, but fuckface Shane mocks Rick's failed diplomacy with Herschel and criticizes his decision to continue the search for Sophia, and Rick's failed attempts at leadership. Oh, okay. Glenn asks Maggie if she knew, and the conversation turns into what will happen after they bury Sophia, to which Glenn doesn't really have an answer to. The group decide to bury Sophia, Herschel's wife, and his stepson, Sean, and burn the rest of the bodies. Rick seems to be questioning his own leadership capabilities, admitting to Lori his frustration that he had everyone searching for Sophia when she had died long ago. Back at the cars, tensions worsen between Shane and Dale, but after some back and forth, we fast forward to everyone digging the graves for the 3 loved ones, and when approached by Lori to tell her they're ready for her, Carol won't attend Sophia's funeral, which pisses Daryl off. We see a montage of the funeral and Herschel packing his wife's belongings in a box, and cut to Carol alone in the grass, picking off the petals of a Cherokee rose before ripping it apart, visibly upset.
Yeah, another emotional start to the episode with Rick staring at Sophia's corpse on the ground. Like, Rick just felt horrible about that. I feel so bad for Carol, but, also a bit of relief. I'd rather know what happened to my daughter than never finding out. That's just me, though. I saw this walker coming back to life. Daryl shot her in the mouth teeth area in the previous episode, so I wasn't surprised this one came back and tried to attack. Love or hate her, Andrea does have some cool kills on the walkers with this scythe and the pitchfork later on. Shout out to her for some cool kills. And I hate to say it, but again, I tend to somewhat agree with Shane here. We saw Patricia the other day feeding chickens to the walkers in the broad daylight. Am I supposed to not believe that she didn't see a little girl walking in there? I don't know. Maggie saved Herschel from an ass whooping. Let me tell you something, Shane is like a sprained ankle, nothing to play with. And again, I agree with Shane. Rick was a former sheriff. He knew the odds, and Sophia was most likely dead. He was putting them all at risk, continuing to look for her every day. Lori Holden is a nurse's dream with how veiny her arms are. My goodness. Give this lady some water. Did you see how veiny her arms and hands were? My God. Yeah, she's not, she don't have piss like Ethan Hawke in the First Reformed. All right, Maggie keeps asking Glenn what's next. She knew her dad wanted them gone. Why hadn't she asked Glenn what his future plans were earlier? What's going on here? Carl says he'd shoot a walker, Sophia. What's wrong with that, Lori? That's reality and what needs to be done. If a walker is coming at Carl, he's not supposed to shoot him. Give me a break. By Herschel's logic, he'd want everyone in that barn buried because he loved all of them, right? At this point, when Rick says Herschel wants Shane off the farm, I just mentioned, I honestly wish the show went that route. And great acting by Andrew Lincoln, realizing the mistake he's made as leader. Big props to Rick. I crack up so hard at this exchange with Shane and Dale. I saw a TikTok that said when you're trying to cheat on a test, but the teacher won't stop staring at you. And I can't not see that now. That's exactly what Dale is doing. Shane is ready to beat the hell out of Dale. Bro snapped on his ass out of pure frustration. I loved it. His line, next time I need a radiator hose, I'll give you a call. I laughed my ass off at that too. And give me a break, Carol. Why wouldn't you want to attend the burial of your daughter? She turned into a walker, but before that, she was your daughter. Give me a fucking break with this. Huge respect to Herschel dressing up, for the funerals for his wife and stepson. Herschel is a man of respect or a man of honor. I like Herschel's character a lot. intense opening. I have some qualms, but I'm invested. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, and hey, before you go, I agree with you, Nico, about, I mean, I know everybody grieves differently, but, you know, what's the difference in Sophia having just died? In theory, that's still just her body and not necessarily her anymore either. It'd be the same thing. I completely agree with you. Carol should have won.
Like I mentioned at the end of the last episode, I don't think anybody there in that group thought Rick had that in him. I don't think they thought he had that dog in him like that. So they're all kind of have that look on their face like, oh shit, but knew he did what had to be done. Again, heartbreaking for Herschel's family, but got to be just the biggest kick to the boys, a running kick to the boys, to realize how right everyone else was this whole time and how wrong you've been, you know. And again, he's a man of respect, and I can appreciate, you know, trying to save people in this way, but just, man, it'd be a tough day. I don't know if I'd show my face for a while either. Again, too many people getting in the way of Maggie and Glenn's love here, man. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Glenn when it comes to keeping secrets, but outside of that, pretty flawless guy so far, right? And Maggie has done what she needs to do to protect her family, but she's also kind of opened up the home and opened up her heart to these people. God damn, man, why don't we just let these two play smush, smush, nice, nice? Too many people trying to fuck with them, man. I don't like it. I will say, really hard to hear occasionally, and this is the second episode this has happened to him. Hard to hear some of the words that are coming out of Carl's mouth, right? Like, I kind of agree with Lori. She's taken aback by some of the stuff he's saying and how it is hardening Carl to an extent. And he kind of matter-of-factly brushed off Sophia's death when not, 30 minutes ago, he was talking about how he wants to find her and everything's going to be okay, but how quickly he's become numb to this world that they live in is got to be really, really hard to see. I completely understand where Lori is coming from, too. And I actually, you know, this is an episode where Lori isn't the worst person alive, okay? Because she actually makes a great point. All that gunfire definitely could have attracted more walkers to that area. We don't know how many are out and about. We don't know where they are. That definitely, you know, could have been a bad thing. And I would be conflicted if I were Rick, because of everything he's been doing, you know, like Nico kind of touched on in a selfish way, I guess. It was for nothing. This whole search for Sophia was technically for nothing. And so I would be conflicted about how I felt. And I would be conflicted about, well, did these people fucking know that she was in here the whole time and let us wander aimlessly through the fucking woods where all these walkers were? And then not only that, they're trying to save those same walkers. And they could have known Sophia was in here the whole time. Nico already mentioned, I mean, she's out at the barn feeding them chickens. Like, you're really trying to tell me she didn't see a little girl in a blue shirt one fucking time? I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I think they all knew that Sophia was in that barn. I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think they legitimately knew. They can say what they fucking want to say, I guess. Again, Dale and Shane are rent-free in each other's head, though. Not going to lie. Like, Shane's definitely fucking in Dale's head, but Dale's in Shane's head, too, because honestly, this time Dale didn't even do anything. All Shane did was walk by that motherfucker and he started talking mad shit. I mean, he is in Shane's head rent fucking free, bro.
It's like
hey, I don't blame him.
He's still man. You tell me. Who and who here?
Tell me. Hey, he was Captain Sassy. That's all I'm going to say.
Go.
Back to hey man, back to this scene with Carol. It's gut wrenching for me because I feel like she basically, for a moment there, had to come to grips with, my daughter was just like every other walker. That wasn't her that we saw. That wasn't her that we shot in the head. You know, that was her body, but it wasn't her anymore. And so that would bring a sense of peace, but it would be tough for sure. Last thing, I commend Herschel for dressing up for this funeral for a lot of different reasons. But this is the Georgia summer, brother. I mean, I don't think I'm wearing that suit to an outside service, bro. I'm sweating my motherfucking balls off in that thing. No fucking way. I had a funeral outside one time. I was a pallbearer for. I told them, I ain't wearing a coat. You can take me off the pallbearer list if you want. I ain't wearing a coat. It's goddamn 98 degrees out here in Florida. Go ahead, Dustin.
Mike said when they asked him, will you be a pallbearer? He said, "Oh yes, Undertaker."
Oh yeah. Hey, buddy. Here's a fun fact. I felt like a dumbass. Listener and brother of mine, cousin Vinny. I thought Paul Bear my whole life was spelled like the character on the TV show, separated and everything. Nay, one word. My man Vinny worked at a funeral home, so he fucking knew. He laughed in my motherfucking face about it. God damn.
That's funny.
Hit me right in the dick with it. He's like, yeah, you idiot. It's not spelled like that. Come on, Nico. That's a reach. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, picking up right here where we left the last episode, that's a great call. And I mean exactly where we left the last episode. Seeing the aftermath develop, that was powerful. Like it could have easily just transitioned to they're back at the house and, but seeing them walk away from the scene, great stuff. And Andrea, hey, she finally did something cool. Sickle through the back of the dome, and it was a great shot. So the one good thing I can say about her. Herschel finally made the right call. Should have been made a long time ago. He said your group's got to go, or at least Shane. Yeah, Shane's got to go. Good call. What an open here. The scene back at the barn, that's a wild one. So many bodies littering the ground. Puts in perspective how crazy the whole thing is. Rick's emotional outburst with Lori was understandable. I mean, it's a lot to process. Two things that were said, though, that mattered the most. Herschel wants Shane off the property, and they should make that happen. And two, Lori made a great point about worrying if other walkers heard the gunfire. That's the only thing that ran through my head when they started firing off all the rounds. When the group is digging the graves, I can't help but think that they had to miss Jim right about now. That man was a hole digger from way back in season 1. Lori walking out of the RV without saying a word after Carol's speech, that was funny to me, like hilarious. It's one of those, this is awkward, I'm going to head out. And yeah, just a really solid open to the episode.
Now, is it Otis's wife Patricia, or was it Beth that used to always go feed the zombies in the barn?
Patricia.
I know we saw Patricia.
That was Patricia, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You know what? I think she's the real villain of the show. She knew the whole time. She's the real villain. And you know what? When I first watched this, and probably a lot of people had the same thoughts, I would guess, I thought the ending of this season was going to be them having to take the barn from Herschel and them. But I'm glad it didn't end up that way. All right, here is the next set of scenes. We open with Andrea and T-Dog piling corpses into Otis's truck, agreeing that Shane did what needed to be done. Dale and Rick protest, suggesting that new problem with Herschel was created in the wake. Why did Andrea kick the truck for T-Dog to go when he's like 3 feet away from her? I don't know, but sorry, that and her picking up the arm that fell off cracked me. Back in the house, Maggie just straight up asked Glenn if he would stay if the group leaves, and Glenn is unsure how to answer, but is saved from this awkward conversation as Beth collapses. She has a fever, and the only cure... No, she just has a fever. But nobody can find Herschel, and discovers that not only has he vanished, but find an empty flask as a clue. At Maggie's suggestion, and Shane and Lori's ire, Rick decides to look for Herschel at the local bar, taking Glenn as well. He's much nicer to those two than I would have been. But that's why he's Rick, and I'm probably more like a piece of shit Shane. We get a quick, nice moment between Carol and Shane where he apologizes to her for what happened to Sophia, as well as Dale stirring the pot some more, telling Lori that he believes Shane shot Otis and left him as bait to cover his escape, basically planting it in Lori's head that Shane will eventually kill Rick. En route to town, Glenn confides to Rick that Maggie told him that she loved him, to which Glenn is in denial about. In a real great moment between the two of them, and Rick says that, they need more good things like that in their lives and that he should embrace those moments. At a bar in town, Rick discovers Herschel and tells him about Beth, while we flip back and forth to the house where Beth's condition is creating concern, prompting Lori to want to send someone to look for the guys, including Herschel. Daryl is the best choice, but says "fuck you" to Olive Oil, saying her bitch went window shopping. Go find these two idiots herself. He's done looking for people. That made it crack me up. Back at the bar, Herschel is deep in the whiskey and blames himself for everything, saying his daughters deserve better than that.
Yeah, Dale and Rick annoy me in this instance. Killing walkers is always a good thing. I agree with T-Dog. I wouldn't want any walkers in my backyard. And I kind of wish T-Dog had a little bit of a bigger role in the season. He's kind of just there, but, cool for him. I feel like the director said, hey, we need to add 20 seconds to the episode. So they had this arm fall off and had Andrea pick it up because that was pointless. Like, nothing came of that. Glenn, why isn't this the right time to have the talk with Maggie? Bro, I'd stay with her 100%. No question. Like, what are you doing? Lori, Carl needs to be cold in certain situations. I don't get her dumbass at all. And I actually do agree with Rick going to find Herschel. He's an old man alone in a dangerous world he's not familiar with. And he needs his, resources like he told her. And this is what I was mentioning earlier about Shane wanting to know you guys' opinion. And I don't want to come across like I'm a Shane stan because I'm not. I 100% recognize his faults and wrongdoings. But I do think there's a nice dude underneath the rough exterior. I think Shane is being sincere with Carol about Sophia. What do y'all think about that before I keep going? I think his only issue is with, like, Lori fucking with his mind.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but him being a hothead is not something that is Lori's fault. That's just a trait of his. And I don't think he's not, I don't want to say he's built for this world because he kind of is to an extent. I mean, he's a killer, but also he's not, I guess he's more of a loner. He's built to be more of a loner. He's more of a Merle than he is a Rick. Does that make sense?
It does. That's very fair. Yeah, Dale brings up Shane killing Otis again. And if he didn't, Carl might be dead right now. Are we forgetting that this is survival of the fittest world? Maybe I'm just a cold-hearted fuck, too. I don't know. I have my qualms with Rick as a leader so far, but this exchange with he and Glenn, it confirms to me that he'd be a cool bro to have. Like, he listens to him talking about Maggie. I think he gives him good advice. He seems to care genuinely. Like, hell yeah, Rick, you seem like a cool dude. I'm also glad Rick isn't mad at Glenn for not saying anything. Lori is the only one he should be mad at about hiding her pregnancy. Like, I'm happy about that as well. Daryl cracks me up in this outburst. The olive oil was a hilarious-ass line. And a subtle jab, honestly. Olive oil in the Popeyes cartoon flirted with two guys constantly. I thought that was slick. And the way he says, I look for that little girl every day was funny, too. Like, I love when these people's voices and accents crack. This is the last thing I got. Herschel continues to be a favorite of mine. Him processing what's happened to him recently. Like, much respect to Herschel. Like, he's a great character. I love his addition to the show.
I can't believe I'm doing this, and I know we have some people on this show that will disagree, but again, Lori here with a little bit of wisdom. Am I right? I mean, we can't keep fucking standing around arguing about it. This shit already happened. So let's move on. I commend her because I hate when that shit happens in real life. I'm like, how many more times are we going to fucking talk about this until it's over with? I hate that shit. Maggie letting Shane in the house after that crazy outburst? Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I would, He's got to stand outside for a little bit, cool off, as they said on Remember the Titans. Look, I'm actually under the impression, and Brian's kind of hinted at this. Again, I like the character of Rick myself, but it kind of feels like you mentioned, there's parts of her that would like to be with both of these guys, which I get it. That's where the double oatmeal cream pie comes in, so I understand that. But again, when I don't know, like when he finally shows his emotion, Lori kind of shits on him a little bit about what kind of dad he is. All right, man, this guy's been a pretty good dad so far in this. And, seeing Shane be this nice to Carol was interesting. Very conflicting character that Shane is. I know Nico touched on it while I was in the shitter there, but I actually do think, hey, I don't care if audience knows. Everybody poops. That's a book, by the way. God damn it. You can leave that in. Everybody moves their bowels. It's fine. It's no big deal. But very conflicting stuff here from Shane. Again, he's so nice to Carol and sweet. And who is this fucking guy? Like, who is this guy? Let me tell you something, Shane. You're fucking confusing, buddy.
I think he's just a politician. He's getting votes right there. He's catering to Carol so he gets her support.
There you go. I like it. I like it. As annoying as Dale is, I love the way he delivers this line to Lori. Very matter of fact about who he thinks Shane really is, and what kind of man. And the look on Lori's face when he's accusatorial of him killing Otis was one of shock, disgust. I really like the interaction here. This scene with Rick and Glenn is fucking wholesome, man. I love it. This is maybe one of my favorite scenes of the first 8 episodes, honestly, because it's just all this chaos around them. And they're really kind of, they're talking about love and families and babies and all that stuff. And damn right, he shouldn't be mad at Glenn. Glenn was just doing what he thought was right, and obviously Rick wouldn't be. I will say, back to shitting on Lori, though, here, guys. Lori trying to criticize Daryl. That's fucking, man, that's hysterical as shit. Fuck you, Lori. Daryl's almost died like 9 times so far in the first 6 episodes of this season. Kick fucking rocks, Lori. Jesus Christ. Last thing. This scene with Herschel is tough. I really, really love it, especially this part. Him having to come to his senses, but also kind of unfairly blaming himself or fairly blaming himself, however you want to look at it. It's a tough watch. And like Nico mentioned, I like Herschel, very respectable guy, and I don't want to see him in this state, but, he kind of did it to himself. So here we are. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, great touch having the walker's arm fell off in the truck. Like, it didn't amount to anything, but it was a great little detail. When the group is in Herschel's room and after Beth fainted, I know one thing. Shane should have not been there. He shouldn't have been anywhere in that house. That's disrespectful to Herschel. Then Rick sure shut Lori up when he said it was for the baby. Mic drop there like that. I got annoyed with Shane tending to Carol. Don't try and redeem yourself, buddy. That ship has sailed and crashed. Good stuff with Dale and Lori talking out of the house, or Dale and Lori walking out of the house. About time he told someone about Shane, so good on him for finally doing it. Glenn reacted exactly how I would have if Maggie said she loved me. I wouldn't have said it back, and I would have freaked out. I've said thank you when girls have said it to me before. I've also faked being asleep, so I didn't have to say anything at all. Let's pump the brakes here, lady. I barely know you. Really good stuff again with Herschel and Rick. He's struggling with his faith, and he's losing hope. I'm ready for the finish. And also, Mike, you mentioned, you said that everyone moves their bowels. Brother, sometimes I think your bowels move you.
They do. It's awful. They moved me from your porch to the shower. So,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right, this is a fucking fantastic ending to this. So,
and by the way, that's my chair. I'm not farting. For people that have listened and commented, that is my old ass chair that gets replaced this weekend. Thank God.
Yeah. Whatever. Hooter McGavin.
That's from Happy Gilmore, Nico. Back at the house, Lori is taking Daryl's advice and takes off herself in a Ford Taurus from when my old ass was in high school. Also, pointing a revolver directly at her face for some reason while checking to see if it's loaded. Fantastic. And more fantastic choices, she now crashes the car while trying to avoid a walker, who is like 50 yards away in broad daylight. Okay. And once again, has her stupid ass and unborn child in peril. Back at the bar, Rick argues that nothing has really changed and people are counting on them to be strong. That it isn't about what they believe anymore, but about keeping their loved ones safe and giving them hope, even if they don't believe it themselves. This resonates with Herschel, who finishes his drink and decisively puts down his glass. But then some shit really starts to go down to end this episode up, as they're interrupted when the bar door opens and 2 strange men walk in, giving them names as Dave and Tony. Dave says that they've come from Philly, gay, and had tried to seek refuge in D.C., losers, but the roads were blocked, so they kept heading west. He also reveals that they encountered a soldier from Fort Benning who told them that the base was overrun. He mentions they may plan on heading to Nebraska, hence the name of this episode, due to its low populations and high volume of guns. Glenn is initially excited to meet other people who are still alive, but Rick and Herschel are visibly hesitant, smartly so. The 5 men converse cordially at first, but the strangers become increasingly impatient when Rick's group will not divulge information about the Green Farm. Tony begins barking threats, prompting Rick to jump to his feet with his hand on his gun. Seeing this, Dave tries to calm things down by laying his own gun down on the bar and addressing Rick with a more reasonable tone. Dave tries to tell Rick that he is desperate and needs a place to be safe, but Rick still refuses to divulge the farm's whereabouts, telling them it's full. Can't sit here. And that Dave's group will have to keep looking for a place of their own. Dave asks Rick where he suggests they do that, and Rick admits that he doesn't know and adds, I hear Nebraska's nice. Fuck yeah, Rick. As Dave laughs at this remark, he reaches for his gun on the bar, but is immediately shot in the head by Quick Draw McGraw, Rick. He then quickly pivots and shoots Tony twice in the chest before he can react, knocking him back against the wall. As he slides to the floor, Rick strides across the room, stands over Tony, and executes his ass with a 3rd bullet to the head. To which I think there's a reason for that. Makes sense, but not till next season. As the smoke clears, Herschel and Glenn stand alongside Rick, the gravity of what's just happened settling over them. Hopefully Herschel now coming to the realization that it's worse out here than he thought.
Yeah. All right. More Lori hate for me. Lori continues to be a bad mother. Just leaves without telling Carl or anyone else she left. Like, come on. And pay attention to the road, Olive Oil. I think it's ridiculous how she wrecked the car as well. Jerking the wheel that much was not necessary. Like, she acts like she was going like 100 miles an hour when she did this. Like, Season 3, Episode 4. Shout out to that episode. Anywho, Herschel's character growth continues to impress me. And I love how he calls out Rick about seeing Sophia and there being no hope left. Great interaction between these two. Good review talk here again, but man, I love that old blue truck. That thing is nice. I love Rick's rebuttal here to Herschel. I agree 100% with Rick. In my eyes, death has always been constant, no matter the way in which it happens. I like that, Rick. Good job. I cracked up at Dave saying maybe I will someday in regarding to eating Tony in the future. The way Dave and Tony kept looking at each other, I immediately got a bad feeling about them as well. I know we're in the end of times, essentially, but it was still wild to me how people just invited themselves to come live with you and come stay with you. Like, fuck off. Go figure this shit out yourself. I'm proud of Rick for being firm in his position, but honestly, I hate to say it, a lot of this felt like filler with these two guys. Beautiful final shot of the farm as they burn the rest of the walkers, and the last thing I got is the Shane head scratch count 2, and Shane tell you something count was 3.
That's crazy. That's wild, bro.
I'm counting them for the rest of the season, brothers.
I fucking love it. I love it. Hey, man. Fuck Lori for wrecking this car. It's ridiculous. And by the way, took one of Nico's kinfolk out with her. Did you see that motherfucker? Look just like you, bro. Come on, man. That was bullshit. Anyway, man, don't do that. I was sticking up for you, man. Come on, man. Anyway, I will say great shit here between Rick and Herschel. Devastating dialogue from Herschel to hear it in his own words. That loss of hope is a really tough thing to come to grips with. And by the way, Nico, I don't know if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, but there's a whole big story plot about hope being a good thing there. So, okay, well, good for you, man. Good for you. Great stuff.
It's the most dangerous thing you could give a man.
San Watanejo. Anyway, man, a fucking burn pile of walkers. That's not like any bonfire I've ever been a part of. Normally it's like 10 Christmas trees and whatever the fuck you could find in your backyard there. No, man, fucking people. God damn, that's tough. Again, Rick, pretty much standing up to Herschel a little bit here and telling him not to feel sorry for himself. Again, all just really good stuff. Kind of pointing out the obvious fact that death is always. It's constant, never going away. No matter how the death happens, it's always going to be there. And you kind of have to live in that reality where people go. They come and they go, and that's a really tough reality for a man like Herschel to face. But again, it seems to get through to him, right? He seems to kind of have a little bit of a change of tune, a change of heart there from that. Of course, these two dudes are from fucking Philly. Anyway, of course they are shitty ass accents. But hey, as an Eagles fan, I'm not from Philadelphia, so I don't have to claim that shit. Just like Brian's not from San Francisco. So there you go. Everything so far has been great, but Nico kind of touched on it. This ends on a little bit of a whimper here. I feel like a lot of the back and forth with these two guys in the bar is filler, like you mentioned. I feel like I don't really care about these two guys and their problems and what they've faced. We haven't gotten to know them at all up until this point, and I don't really care about what they've been through because these characters we've got to know have been through so fucking much already. It seems like bullshit in comparison. And then I don't care what you say. Shout out to my boy Rick. Did what had to be done again. He knew they were sketchy. He knew they were up to no good. Took care of my fucking business. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah. Women drivers, am I right? Sheesh. I loved Rick finally showing some fire, talking to Herschel here, yelling at him, fighting for him. That was good stuff. Then we get some great tension when Dave and Tony enter the mix. I'd be on my toes. I'm not drinking with them. I wouldn't trust anyone, which, it's character development. We definitely see Rick's trust dwindle after this, to say the least.
And Glenn. Like he learns too.
Yep. They did offer some valuable info, though. Doesn't appear to be a safe haven anywhere. But when they start asking about where they're living and how empty their cars are, red flags. Tension's ramping up. Rick had a nice zinger when he suggested Nebraska, and then he popped them both. Let's go. This was the first time he killed a living person on screen, and it was, like I said, a major turning point. It's a great, fantastic ending to another really good episode. Some great developments and tension throughout. I gave this one a 9.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're both fantastic.
I think I would like this ending more if Rick doesn't contradict himself in the very next episode.
I don't remember, so I'll have to watch
I don't remember either, but if it's because he did something here and then goes back to his old ways, I can accept that because it's not like a switch flipped. He's still a person and he's evolving. It's not like it happened overnight. I don't know what you're talking about, though.
Me either, but that's what I really like about this show is that it's, you know, they all have a character arc and they all learn. Like just mentioned with Glenn, he's very like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Boa. Not even thinking about how dangerous they are.
Yeah.
And then Rick, being a cop, picks up on that shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, he does what he has to do. Again, being a cop, I think, helped with that. I don't remember what you're talking about either.
And their progress isn't linear, which is very believable, I think.
Right.
Does the name Randall trigger anything for you guys?
Cunningham, man, I hate the Eagles.
Never mind. I got no fun facts.
I've got 2. You don't have any, Dustin?
I got 1. Go ahead.
All right, this is the first and only episode in the series to be directed by Clark Johnson, and this is one that's, you know, for people who have already seen all the seasons and kind of watching this along again with us. While in the bar describing how they came down from Philly, Dave says there was some kind of safe zone near DC, but they couldn't get close enough. This could be a reference to Alexandria's safe zone the group gets to 3 seasons later. But he also mentions a train yard, which may be a reference to Terminus as well. And again, you'd have to have seen all these episodes or seasons and been rewatching this with us. I hope you guys are.
Yeah, it's a really good seed planted there. The only one I've got is that the bar scene was filmed at the old Sharpsburg auction building in Sharpsburg, Georgia. So that's cool. Although I will say, you know, I know in the 90s it was definitely more prevalent, 80s for sure. Like the further back it was more and more common. But in 2000, what year did this take place? 2010, somewhere in there. I'm from Tennessee.
2010, 2011.
Somewhere in there. I'm from Tennessee. I don't remember walking into establishments back then and seeing rebel flags up on the wall. I'm sure it happened, but dang.
I do.
I didn't even notice.
I do.
It was hanging up behind the bar.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys one more clue about Randall. There's a fence spike trigger anything?
Randall Simon played in MLB for years.
No,
All right, we're moving on.
It's been a long time since I watched it, I guess. Damn. All right, let's go.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
you binged the whole thing in like what, a week?
Hey, what's Randy Savage's real name? It's something Poffo. It's not Randall Poffo, right?
Pretty sure it is.
I was trying to think of something Randall. Sorry. Antoine Randall L., former Steelers wide receiver. There you go.
Yeah. Randall Woodfield, serial killer from Oregon.
There you go.
All right, anywho, let's move on. We appreciate y'all tuning in. 2 great episodes. We'll be back next week with episodes. What episodes are we doing? 9 and 10. Hell yeah, brother.
Let me tell you something.
Let me ask you something.